Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Jay Encarnacion, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are thrilled to have Rich Diviney, the founder and CEO of The Attributes. Rich brings a fascinating mix of expertise in the leadership and human performance space, over 2 decades as a retired U.S. Navy SEAL with 13 overseas deployments, and a passion for helping individuals and organizations identify and develop innate attributes for optimal performance under stress. The Attributes, founded in 2020, is revolutionizing how leaders in business, sports, and military sectors assess hidden drivers of success and build resilience. We'll be exploring his founding story, how his business empowers clients in the performance optimization space, and his vision for scaling this impact-driven venture. So with that being said, let's dive right into it. Rich, welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you, Jay. It's wonderful to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, truly a pleasure and an honor. And again, just thank you so much for your service and everything that you've done for this country and given us the ability to even be sitting here having this conversation. Again, an honor and a pleasure to have you here. So if we could start at the top for our listeners, Rich, what specific problem in the human performance landscape really inspired you to start the Attributes?
It was a result of a task I was given when I was put in charge of selection and assessment for SEAL Team 6, which is one of our premier SEAL teams, and it's a very detailed process and selection course. It's about 9 months long, and of course you have to be a really very high performing SEAL to even apply. And as we were putting guys through, we had about a 50% attrition rate, which is okay because every assessment and selection implies attrition. But what was not good is we were not able to effectively articulate why certain guys were not making it through. And for example, we'd say something like a guy couldn't shoot very well. You tell a Navy SEAL of that caliber that he can't shoot very well. This is a guy who's probably shot more rounds than most people in the military. So it was disingenuous to them, disingenuous to us. And so they said, "Hey, Rich, we need you to look at this." And this is when I really discovered that we were actually assessing the wrong things. We were looking at skills, shooting, skydiving, whatever that is. And we actually needed to be looking at attributes, which are the qualities. So skills tell us they know how to do the job. Attributes tell us they have what it takes to do the job. And so it hit me in a couple ways. The most stark way was I was talking to an older SEAL friend of mine. He had been an instructor at basic SEAL training years ago.
Yeah.
He said there was a story about a kid who showed up to SEAL training who walked in the offices and said, "I want to be a Navy SEAL." And the instructor said, "Okay, you have to do a swim test." And the kid said, "Fine." So they took him out of the pool. It's a 50-meter swim. So 25 meters to one end, 25 meters back to the other end. This kid gets all ready to go, proceeds to jump into the pool, and then proceeds to sink to the bottom of the pool. And at the bottom of the pool, starts to walk across the bottom of the pool to one end, and then touches the end, and then walks across the bottom of the pool back to the other end. Comes up, gasping for air, nearly drowning. The instructor looks at him and says, "What the heck are you doing?" And the kid looks at him and says, "I'm sorry, instructor, I don't know how to swim." And at that point, the instructor looks at him and says, "That's okay, we can teach you how to swim." Question is, why did the instructor say that? He said that because he knew if this kid had the qualities, the attributes to show up to Navy SEAL training without knowing how to swim, he had everything inside of him we needed for him to be a Navy SEAL. Teaching him the skill of swimming was going to be easy. And so this is when I began to understand there's a bifurcation in these terms. There's a difference between skills and attributes. And oftentimes businesses and organizations get it wrong because they look only at skill and they don't necessarily look at the qualities that actually make up the performance.
Absolutely incredible. And I know having that type of experience and being in that space and around so many high performing individuals, it just puts you in a position to really provide quality. So incredible what you have been able to turn this into, and really excited to get into it a bit more. So I want to do that now for our listeners of really getting into the nuts and bolts with you here, Rich, of the attributes and what you're bringing. So I have a three-part question for you. First is going to be around the core offer. What exactly is the core offer here? I know that you have the attribute assessments,
Yep.
customized workshops. How are your core offers structured for your clients, and who is the ideal client that you like to work with on these core offers?
Yeah, I think the core offer, and again, I admit as an entrepreneur, you're always trying to figure this out. You're always refining it, right? And I don't know if it's right. I don't know if it's right there. However, I think the
Yep.
core offer centers around this idea that we help people build the highest performing teams possible by helping them understand and focus on the qualities that drive individual performance versus the skills. And the reason why this is important is because the best teams on the planet They perform not only when things are going great, but also and especially when things are not going great, when the what hits the fan. And when the what hits the fan, skills go out the window. We cannot apply a known skill to an unknown environment. This is when we lean on attributes. Attributes, you lean on your adaptability, you lean on your patience, you lean on this stuff. And so, what we help people do is generate or learn a new language of performance. And that language of performance centers around the qualities of every individual so that you pick the highest performing, most capable people that step up and perform not only when things are going great, but also when things aren't going great.
I love that. So as far as what you're doing with the customized workshops, does that include coaching? Are you doing one-on-one coaching, group coaching, cohorts? What does
Yeah.
that side look of it around more of a productized offer to scale and grow what you're doing here?
Yeah, so far what we do is we have our assessment tool. So the assessment tool on our digital platform, someone can go in there and take the assessment and figure out where they stand on all the attributes.
Yep.
So we have that, and then we can go into an organization team. We have, for example, a team. They all take the assessment. We go in and give a workshop, integrating them, indoctrinating them to the attributes content, teaching them the language, and then also having them explore their own results for themselves and explore the results as it relates to them as a team. This helps inculcate the folks into the language of performance. They begin having conversations like this so that most of them begin implementing it into their hiring processes and into their performance evaluating processes. In other words, companies spend so much time hiring people and oftentimes focused on a resume, which is all a bunch of skills, by the way, and unable and not really focusing on the really stuff that matters. And we help them use this tool to actually hire better and performance evaluate better in their companies. So the model is assessments at a price, workshop, but then a continuance of the use of the assessments, and then when able to consistent coaching or at least counseling as they go through that process.
Amazing. Amazing. So I would love to really get into a bit with you as you're continuing to think about the idea of growing and scaling the attributes. What's working best for you right now on the acquisition side? So
Yeah.
obviously you have that strong military background. I don't know how much you did around marketing or sales on that front. So walk us through the channels that have been most effective for you, whether it's referrals, the word of mouth side, networking, ads, if that's effective, social media. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I would say that with zero experience in marketing, because you don't have a lot,
Yeah.
you don't want to market yourself as a Navy SEAL. You just want to show up, surprise people. But I would say for us, the most powerful and most beneficial tools have been podcasts,
Yeah.
getting out there, talking about the book, and then referrals and word of mouth. Those have been the most powerful. We've done some ads, and that has worked to a degree, but a much smaller degree. It's really been about getting on these platforms, talking about it, getting people excited. And of course, part of our business is giving keynote speeches. So I'll go and give keynote speeches on the content. That also is obviously a stream because people can hear the keynote and they say, "Oh, I want more of that." But I think I would estimate 75% of our business has come from these types of podcasts, maybe another 20% from word of mouth, and then the rest maybe from some ads and things like that.
Love it. I love it. So as you're continuing to grow and scale, are you looking to do more around the predictability of ads and having those inbound warmer leads coming in for you? Is that something you're thinking about, or do you like the approach you're taking or the challenges that you're having on that front? What are you looking forward to doing as you
It's a
continue?
great question. I would say, honestly, I'm not sure just yet because
Yeah,
we are, in fact, looking at how we might change our model so that we can scale. One of the things you recognize is right now the business is really centered around me going out and giving
right.
this type of stuff. You can't scale one human, and there's only so much one human can do. And so this year has been about us rethinking the business. Are there ways we can reframe it, reshape it so that we can scale more effectively? And I think once we get that clear, marketing strategy will then become more clear in terms of what might work best.
Absolutely. So it sounds like a bit of a bottleneck, obviously, is you, Rich. You having
Yes, yeah,
to,
exactly. As
yeah.
humans always are.
Yeah, you are the bottleneck and obviously thinking about scale. And I think it's a beautiful thing to bring that up because again, you've had so much success in the career, but when it comes to being a founder, there are so many hats we have to wear. And I think it's great to talk about that, especially for our listeners who are also can be a solopreneur, trying to figure out where can I position myself? How can I delegate
Yeah.
effectively and efficiently to put myself in a position to scale, to start to make six figures a month, seven figures a month, and really start to break through some barriers. So just incredible to hear how you're approaching that. You've seen success now, but to really hit that next level, we have to reorganize a couple things
We have
to
to
get
evolve.
there.
One of the things I know, and I'm sure you talk about it constantly, whether you're founder, entrepreneur, whatever language you use, all of us tend to run into this endeavor because we are an expert at the thing and we're doing the thing. And what everybody has to understand when they're building a business like this is that if you want to scale, you have to scale in a way that you no longer are the doing the, you're no longer necessarily doing the thing. You have to teach others to do it. You have to elevate yourself into a position where the thing can then be done, or else you're not going to scale properly. And that's probably the biggest, hardest hurdle for most of us because we just love doing the thing. That's why we did it in the first place. And how do we shift that mindset from doing the thing to managing the thing to scaling the thing and all that stuff? So,
Yeah, I love it. So, talking a bit more, I know you mentioned it sounds like you have a bit of a team behind you. So,
yeah.
talking a bit more on that, do you have a team that's just helping you with kind of the fulfillment side, or do you have a sales, setter, closer model right now? What does that
Yeah.
entire system look like to really push this out?
So our team is very small. My wife and I and COO. So I'm not the only incorrect thing you said is that I'm the CEO. I'm not the CEO. My wife is the CEO,
I love it. Okay.
which is awesome because she always has been anyway. She's the CEO of the company. So she tries to run the business holistically just because I'm out there doing the thing all the time. So I do the fulfillment piece. She also does sales. She's incredible at sales. And then we have a COO who manages all of our projects and our back ends. And we have an admin assistant who helps us with that as well. So right now, a very small team, just four of us. We occasionally contract out for smaller things and things like that, but we want to do that responsibly because again, we want to make sure that we're not bringing too many people aboard too fast if we don't need them. We also want to make sure we're not overworking those we have on the team. So I think it's a constant adjustment, constant diligence on what we have going on and then what the future will require.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Obviously, speaking again about some of the bottlenecks that you guys are facing right now, just for more of that relatability for our listeners of what you're working through is again on the predictability, maybe on the lead generation side, as you're continuing to tweak the messaging and figure that out, getting yourself more into that founder level role and not having so much on the fulfillment side and then more on the sales side, right? Maybe getting a
Yeah.
setter or closer into place to really be as effective as possible as you continue to scale and grow. Anything else on that front, bottleneck wise, that you're thinking about, that your wife is thinking about, that you guys need to break through? Or are those really the key focuses right now?
I think those are the key focuses. However, I'll add just one factor. And I think any type of progression revolution has to take into account those opportunities that are starting to show up. AI is a huge one. And I think most of us in these positions need to start saying to ourselves, okay, we see the model, we
Mm,
see what's worked, and what's worked with other people or even what's worked with us may not, in fact, be what's working a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. So, in what ways, using new technologies that didn't exist even a year ago, in what ways could we potentially evolve
mm,
so that we're, again, changing in a way that gets to as many people as possible and utilizes the stuff that's incoming? Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to evolve yourself and then suddenly look around and you're still a dinosaur. So you're still extinct because you're not using this stuff. So I think part of our, I wouldn't even call it a bottleneck. It's just one of the challenges in a good way is to look at the technologies that are out there now and incoming and ask ourselves, can we evolve into that or even ahead of it? So that is utilized in the conduct of our evolution, because we certainly don't want to, you don't want to do all that work and still be behind.
they'll be behind. I could not agree more. And yeah, AI is a massive topic right now. And it's just the crazy thing is it just keeps getting better. So it's
Yeah.
like, how much better can this thing get? It can already do so much. I can't fathom another 5 years from now what the capabilities of AI are going to be, especially in business cases and for founders like ourselves. So it is
Well, what's interesting about that, Jay, is that I'm old enough. I'm not sure how old you are, but I'm old enough. My dad brought home one of our very first personal computers. This was in the early
wow,
80s, and
wow.
it was an IBM with a green
Yeah,
screen,
yeah,
text only, and I remember we could type on it. You could play. There was a game called Zork, which is all like a reading,
yes.
and it's a reading mapping game. But even then, none of us could have even imagined where computers would be here today, 40 years, 50 years later. That's AI. We don't even know. We can't even imagine what
Exactly.
it's going to look like 20, 30 years from now, which is both exciting and terrifying. I try to choose the exciting side of it, but we just don't know what we don't know, you know?
I couldn't agree more. With that being said, obviously, there's so much that you guys have planned and are clear as day going to be successful with it. Just the mindset, the energy, the drive that you have behind this is incredible. Paint us the picture. What does the rest of this year look like for you in your minds, right? What are you
Yeah.
really laser focused on for that continued growth and success?
Yeah, yeah, it's apropos that we're having that conversation right now because literally I'm home this week for the first time in several weeks and in a couple months.
Yeah,
And the goal this week is to modify or I'll put together and start to solidify a new business plan, a new business model. And so that's what we're going to be working on. And so our plan is for the rest of this year, get something put together, start mapping out what needs to happen, get things in place so that at a certain point, either at the end of this year or the beginning of next, we can start pulling the triggers on the evolution, on the change. And so I think that's what we're focused on. We want to move quickly, but we also want to move responsibly. So yeah, the rest of this year will be getting that together with the goal of, as we enter into the new year, we're pulling triggers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just being as diligent as possible with the moves that you're making. It makes complete sense. And as you're looking to scale and grow, having to reassess the situation, I think it's super important for our listeners to listen to get on that as well, because
Yeah.
you can be seeing success as a founder. But as you mentioned, when it comes to really growing and scaling, you have to be able to do it effectively and efficiently.
Yeah.
So just take notes there to our listeners, right? You have to be able to sit back, even if it means taking a bit of a break to really get the right pieces into place. So I think it's incredible that you're sharing that with us and what it really takes to be a founder and be successful. So I would love to hear from you here, Rich. How do you see the human performance industry as a whole evolving in the coming years, especially with your battle tested approach with what we're speaking about AI and technology and where it's going? How are you keeping yourself at the forefront of the evolution that you're picturing?
I think primarily we are focusing on the fact that the world is going to become less of a skills-based system and more of an attributes-based system. So, in other
Yes.
words, AI, if nothing else, is going to start taking over skills-based things.
Yeah.
And so the focus on skills for companies and teams and organizations is going to not be as required. We're going to have to start thinking about what type of qualities of human are we going to need to, in fact, manage the new technologies, all the new frontiers. And so I think I'm confident that we're ahead of that in terms of focusing on the right aspect of human performance, which is ironic as this was always what drove human performance anyway. Even in the sports genre, which we could all argue is maybe a higher percentage skills-based genre, we
Right.
know that the top sports folks, athletes, whether it be the Tom Brady's, the Drew Breeses, the Wayne Gretzky's, you name it, the Michael Jordans, it's not just because they can shoot baskets or throw a football. It's because they have attributes that allow them to be what they are. And so it's always been this way. I think it's going to be highlighted more viscerally as we get into a world where we have computers that can do the thing. So,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So with that, I want to take us into the lightning round here, Rich. Just a couple more questions for you before we do wrap up. And the first one's going to be more on the tool or resource side of things. So whether it's a performance insight from your Navy SEAL days or a strategy from your books or an AI tool that you're using, what can you say has really been the biggest game changer for the attributes at this point?
simplicity. The idea that we can we are international in terms of our client base, and what's fun about that is even as a Navy SEAL, different countries from all over the world are like, "Ooh, that's cool," but it's not complex and it's not over militarized. It's very simple. It's very human. The attributes languaging is very simple human language. It doesn't have much complexity to it, so people can adopt it very quickly and they can use it very quickly and efficiently. And so keeping things simple, taking things down to the nuts and bolts so that others may absorb it fast and adopt it, that's, I think, the biggest thing that we found has been helps us with our success.
I love it. And then last but certainly not least here, I know this is going to be a good one. What is the best piece of advice that you have and can leave for our listeners before we wrap up the show today?
There's so many. I will say this though, the one that pops to mind is be resolute in your goal, but flexible in the approach. We have to understand that even the climber who's looking at the cliff, obviously the goal is the top of that rock. And that climber will likely map out visually a pathway that he or she thinks they can take all the way up, but they understand that they can't make it happen until they start getting on that rock. And they won't know things until they get on that rock. And as they go up that rock, they're going to recognize, ooh, that foothold or handhold that I saw from the ground, that's not actually a usable one. I may have to find a different one. Sometimes that next best foothold or handhold is like down and to the right, which
Right.
means sometimes it'll feel like you're moving away from your goal, but it's just because you're getting a better handhold or foothold so you can keep on going up. So be resolute in your outcome, be flexible in the approach. It's never, I will say never. I can be definitive about this. It's really never gonna go exactly the way you planned it. So,
Yeah.
so take that for what it's worth.
I love it. I love it. With that, right there, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. And Rich, truly can't thank you enough for coming on the show, sharing your incredible journey and your insights with us today. And again, so incredible to have someone like yourself on. It was an honor and a pleasure. And I know you're going to do some amazing things. So would love to have you back in the future to get some good updates. I know there's going to be many. So again, thank you so much, Rich. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, which I know so many of you have, Don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And also check out the attributes at theattributes.com for their attribute assessments, and follow Rich on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/Rich Diviney. For more resources and insights, you can visit us here at closers.io, where we are dedicated to helping businesses accelerate their growth. Until then, keep climbing, and we will see you on the next one.